Today I have a really simple all-over design for you guys. It's just building upon a few very simple elements to make a really striking all-over design that's easy to do on a long arm or a domestic. So this design has several elements and they are all very simple to quilt, and you just take them one at a time. So the very first step is to draw a long, gently wavy line from the left side to the right side of your quilt. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-mark this just because I find it easier to be able to kind of stand back and look at the line and make sure it's kind of where I want to be. So this is the last pass of this quilt. You can see up here I already have the kind of the previous row of this design done, and there will be filler quilting between these kind of segments, so I want to be sure to draw my line about right here. Now, this is just my kind of preference for spacing. If you want these to be kind of closer together or wider apart, then you can certainly do that. So I'm going to grab a marker and just draw a wobbly line. Okay, I've used just a water-soluble marker to draw my line, and now I'm just going to stitch it. And if I was doing this on a domestic machine, then I would probably do this part with the walking foot, just because it's just going to make it really easy to get this line to be nice and gently wavy. But you could also use your free motion foot if you want to. Now you can see that I did not follow that blue line that I drew exactly, but it was just to give me an idea of where I wanted to go. See, like this section of this design kind of drops down pretty low, so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't bring this line up so high that I didn't have room to fit my design in. So I kind of kept this part low. And pre-drawing that line just kind of gave me a chance to double check those things. So now I am over at the right side of my quilt, and it is time to work backward doing the first stage of this design, which is just basically little humps that are gonna go up and around and come back and almost touch this line. You can aim to touch this line, or you can aim to just get close, whatever your preference is. So it's just gonna be like little half circles that bump all the way down this line. Real simple. Your scale can be up to you. Mine are about 2 inches across and about 1 inch high. So I'm just gonna bump my way all the way back down this line. This is a great place to stop when you need to kind of either on a long arm take a step, or on your domestic to reposition your hands. Stop at this little turnaround where you kind of come down, you kind of pause and build up a little bit of thread and then bounce back out. This place, since you are already building up a little bit of thread, it's going to disguise any little wobbles. So any of these little down strokes that we take are a great place to stop. Now that we have our initial kind of row of little bumps, we are going to go back and do a larger bump for every 2 of our previous bump. So I'm going to come back out and then go back down into that same little divot. And I'm just going to do that all the way back across the other way. So there's nothing special about continuing this design. I'm just going to bump out and bump back in for every 2 of these and go all the way across, and then we'll work back one more time the other way. Okay, I've completed my second kind of layer of bumps on this pass, and I ended at kind of the peak of a bump. I wasn't able to come back down to my initial line, and that's fine. You might end up down here if you have an even number of bumps, or you might end up at the top. It doesn't matter. Just go with it. I have not counted any of these bumps. It's fine. For the round back, if you started down here, then you are just going to come right back out and bump up, and you're just going to echo this previous line that we made, but you're going to come up a little bit higher. So you're going to, it's like a more of an oval shape than a circle. So you're going to come up, stitch up higher, and then come right back down to the same intersect. Since I ended at the peak, I'm just going to stitch up and then come back down, just to kind of make it look like the design continues. And that is one half of our design. Now I could go ahead and do the other side of this design to kind of do the mirror image, but before I advance my quilt or before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and do the back and forth filler between these lines of this pattern, just so that I can move on and not have to come back. So between here, I'm just doing kind of skinny back and forth lines. I'm trying to keep them about 1/4 of an inch apart. Nothing real fancy here. This is a filler that I thought really complemented these nice round shapes by being a little denser and a little more linear, so that these shapes really pop out. So I'm going to go ahead and do the filler back and forth, and then we will do the echo of the 3 passes we just did. So I realized this is kind of a tedious filler. If you did not want to go this route, you could do like a figure 8, which would go a little more smoothly. You could do pebbles, you could do little tight swirls. You can pick whatever filler you would like to do here. I would recommend picking one that's a little bit denser so that these shapes do really stand out, but pick whatever you like. I just happen to really like this filler. I like how it feels. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, but I will spare you guys the tedium of watching me do this all the way across. So we will come back when it is time to do the mirror image of our design here. Oh, that was a million back and forth lines, but it is all done. And now it is time to do this on this side of that initial line. So we're going to start just as we did before. I am going to be doing kind of a bump, stitching the opposite side of these initial bumps, and I'm going to try to make them meet at the same point on this line so that it looks almost like a string of pebbles with a line through the middle. So I'm just eyeballing these as I go, but if you would be more comfortable kind of taking a marker and kind of drawing a little target that's a little bit easier to see, then feel free to do so. Whatever helps you kind of make this successful, then you do it, because there's no rules in quilting, and you do what works for you. So now we go back. The next step was to do the bumps over 2, and I'm just going to do that below, trying to meet these same spots so that all of this kind of comes together in a little build up here. You just want to fake the end of that design. So I'm just going to work all the way back. Okay, I have bumped right back out and started the third kind of layer of this design, and that's just echoing this kind of circle shape a little bit wider, just to make this expand a little bit and kind of give it some more heft. So I am just going to echo this line, kind of creating a wider shape all the way across. And I am kind of approaching the bottom of my quilt. I think in a little bit I'm going to be actually stitching off the edge of where I actually have fabric, and I'm doing that just to keep the shape smooth. So I have finished that last element, and now we just have that back and forth filler to do. And I don't have anything to kind of work up against, so I'm going to be doing it off the edge of the fabric here, the batting, and it's just easier for me to work left to right doing this design. So I'm going to move my machine back to the beginning, and now I'm going to be doing back and forth designs, or back and forth lines, just right to the edge of this fabric. So if you are working on a domestic machine, you might want to do this section of the design in kind of a, like having your hands this way so that you can kind of work towards and away from you. And then for this section, you might want to load your quilt kind of the other way and work this way, because it's easier to work kind of towards and away from you and keep your lines nice and straight, because that's kind of the way your body moves, rather than trying to move back and forth and keep these lines really parallel. So if I was working on a domestic, I would probably do all of these large elements all the way across my quilt, and then go back and do this straight line filler between all of the designs. So that's it for this design. I really enjoy this kind of quilting because it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. You pick an element like a wavy line or an echo and just keep building upon your design until you achieve something that you really like. And then you can repeat it along the length of the quilt or change it up with every pass. It's a little bit more interesting than like a regular all over. It gives you a little bit more of a custom look with really no more work than an all over design. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, there are more videos popping up on the screen right now that you might like, including the making of this quilt that we quilted today. So I hope you have a happy week, and I will see you again on Monday. Happy quilting!